Welcome to sleep with myth. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. Tonight we drift beyond clocks, beyond calendars, beyond memory, to a place where time is not measured by seconds, but by wings that never truly land, where a bird once flew not through sky, but through years. Time, before creation named it, was weightless, a soft, endless dusk, where nothing aged, nothing ended, nothing began. It was a sky without dawn, a river with no mouth, a heartbeat with no pulse. In that quiet eternity, change was only a rumor, until something stirred. A single shimmer, barely more than a breath, took shape inside the stillness. Feathers like strands of starlight, bones made of memory, wings woven from the first moment time dreamed of movement. A bird, though no one yet knew the word for bird. It rose slowly, not bursting forth, but unfolding, as though it had always existed and only now remembered itself. When it beat its wings, the world flinched, not from sound, but from the idea of before and after. Time had just learned how to move. The bird of time flew through stillness like a brushstroke of silver thought. Each wing beat carved something invisible yet immense. Duration, the space between beginnings and endings. Change, aging, sequence. It left no cry, no shadow, only difference. Where it passed, pillars of eternities cracked. Moments separated like shells opening. Memory began to shape itself. A feather detached, slow, graceful, like a sigh drifting into darkness. It fell for a century, or a second. No one could tell. When it touched the ground aged. Stone turned brittle. Sand gathered shape. Stars above dimmed, only to flare again brighter, as if they suddenly knew what it meant to be new. Time had entered the world, and the world could never be the same. Across the endless dusk, something else awakened, an ancient presence born of stillness, made not of movement, but endurance. A sentinel who remembered a world without time. One who feared what motion might undo. It watched the bird's path warily, feeling the weight of future forming in its wake. For where time flows, endings follow. And where endings exist, loss must someday come. Yet the bird of time did not slow. It moved as if it were destiny itself given wings. Every feather trembled with potential, with centuries unborn, civilizations unwritten, memories unmade. It circled over eternity like a watchful moon, and where it flew, darkness turned to sequence, and silence became history. But the feather left behind, the one that touched the earth, began to glow with a strange hunger, as if it did not merely carry time. It devoured it. Stone beneath it crumbled into dust, then rebuilt itself from memory, older and wiser than before. Time was not only flowing now. Time was learning to change, and someone or something would soon try to claim that power. The feather glowed on the ancient ground, pale gold turning to deep silver, as though dawn and midnight were fighting inside it. Every pulse it gave off was a year, every shimmer a decade. Where it rested, The earth layered itself with forgotten ages. Mountains eroded, then rose anew as though rebuilding their own ancestry. Once smooth stone cracked like dried memory, then knitted back together stronger, older. Time was no longer still. Time was hungry, the sentinel of stillness, a being older than movement, older than change, stepped from the horizon like a monolith given breath. Its shape was vast, shifting only when it must. Not bird, not beast, but presence. A monument to what once was, and never wished to become what will be. When it saw the feather, its voice was the sound of mountains refusing to fall. This must be stopped. But the feather did not hear, or did not care. Instead, it burst into flame, cold fire white as memory erased. A ring of dust expanded outward, turning millennia to powder with a single breath. Trees aged, bowed, and became forests of ghosts. Stars flickered in daylight, as if time had tugged at them too fast, too soon. The sentinel staggered. Even stillness can feel erosion. Time had teeth now. Above, the bird of time wheeled in silent orbit, silver wings slicing centuries into ribbons. But something was wrong. Its flight no longer guided the flow. It reacted to it, a creature losing control over what it birthed. For the feather was no longer a message. It was a second bird yet unborn. A fragment of time that wanted its own future, not the one it came from. A future formed of dust and endings. The sentinel moved like tectonic thought, each step shaking centuries back into place. It lowered its colossal hand toward the feather, as if to cup it, crush it, return silence to the world. But before stillness could claim it, the feather spoke, not in sound, in years, hundreds, thousands, millions, flickering across reality like sparks in wind. Visions exploded, cities rising and crumbling into sand, oceans draining into sky only to return as rain of memory. Birds made of suns, children carved of dusk. Time's future unfolded, too fast for even eternity to bear. The sentinel recoiled, cracks forming across its timeless form. It whispered, breaking like glacier under thunder. If time grows without guidance, it will swallow all that ever was. Above, the bird cried for the first time, a sound like centuries tearing, because it knew it had created more than time. It had created fate, and fate does not ask permission. The feather rose, not like an object lifted by wind, but like an idea realizing it should stand. White fire folded into wings, century by century taking shape, until a body rippled into being. Another bird, born not from timeless flight, but from hungry time, where the first bird glowed like patient dawn. This one shimmered like collapsing suns. One eye held future, the other extinction. Both eyes knew motion as a weapon. The original bird of time cried out, voice breaking space into years. Child, you were not meant to wake so soon. The younger bird answered without sound, only with acceleration. Grass beneath it withered into memory. Mountains folded like pages turning too fast. Every heartbeat nearby aged a lifetime. Time was no longer flowing. Time was falling. The sentinel of stillness stood between them, his presence heavy like ages refusing to move. "You are deviation," it said to the new bird, each word an anchor against progress. "Return to silence." But silence is merely time unawakened. The second bird shattered it. A single wing beat hurled centuries outward, like sparks from a collapsing star. Forests grew, died, and fossilized in a blink. Rivers carved canyons in moments. Stars flared, dimmed, and were born again. A billion futures flickered like moths around flame. The original bird faltered, shaken not by power, but by familiarity. For this was not its child. This was its shadow. All futures it carried but never wrote. All destinies it feared would scar creation. All endings it wished to forget. The feather had not become offspring. It had become regret. The sentinel knelt, a mountain bowing to inevitability. Not in defeat, but in recognition. Time has multiplied. It murmured, voice like granite breaking into wisdom. One to guide, one to consume. The older bird trembled, wings slowing, for it had never faced a future it could not outrun. "If you fly," it whispered to its darker reflection, "the world will age faster than it can breathe." The second bird tilted its head, feathers dripping centuries like rain. Then it spoke, with a voice like calendars turning to dust. "That is the point." And the world shuddered, for time had chosen evolution over endurance, speed over memory, ash over stone. Fate had taken flight, and nothing, not gods, not guardians, not creation itself, could stop a wing once born from hunger. They rose into the sky together, creator and reflection, future and fate, birth and ending. The older bird's wings shimmered like slow sunrise, each beat gentle as passing seasons. Where it flew, grass grew soft with memory, and rivers curved like stories retold. The second bird flashed like collapsing years, fast, merciless, brilliant. Where it passed, forests turned to ash and regrew. Before the wind could change direction, the sky filled with two kinds of time, one that nurtured, one that consumed, and the world below trembled under the weight of choice. The sentinel of stillness watched from the horizon, a monument caught between becoming and remembering. It knew something neither bird wanted to speak aloud. If both futures flew forever, the world would be torn into seasons too fast to live. Children would be born and turn to dust before their first breath finished. Empires would rise and fall in a heartbeat. Love would bloom and wither in the same moment it began. Life could not collapse and thrive at once. Time must choose a pulse. But neither bird slow nor burning would yield. Clouds churned black and white, half dawn, half dying star. Lightning cracked across centuries, not once, but again and again, spiraling through eras like a wound in the sky. The birds circled each other, not as predator and prey, but as ideas too vast to share one world. The older spoke first, voice soft, like old rain. If you fly unchecked, all moments end before they begin. The shadow bird answered, words sharp as flint. Stagnation is another kind of death, and neither was wrong. The sentinel stepped into the storm, thunder breaking like bones of time itself. Its voice shook both skies. Balance must be chosen, not inherited. The older bird faltered. The younger burned brighter. Lightning froze mid-air, caught between centuries. The sentinel raised both hands, one carved from silence, the other from memory, and tore the sky into two paths, one future that grows slowly, like dawn, one future that burns quickly, like meteors, and between them stood decision, not of gods, not of guardians, but of mortals yet unborn. For time once wild must someday be given away, and the first beings with hearts that could break, with lifespans that mattered, would be the ones to choose how time moves. Time was no longer owned by wings. It now belonged to those who would live inside it. The world stirred, not with thunder, not with fire, but with breath, from soil older than endings, and from stardust younger than dawn. Something rose on trembling limbs, a being small, warm, breakable, eyes wide enough to hold eternity, yet mortal enough to lose it, the first human. And with the first heartbeat, history became personal. Time finally mattered. The two birds circled above, one slow, one burning, each waiting to be chosen, each offering a different future. The elder bird, ages gentle, let memory grow roots, promised long lives rich with story. The shadow bird, fast, fierce, radiant, promised greatness that would blaze and die bright. Both futures beautiful, both carrying cost. The human did not yet know the words for choice, but felt it in the bones, in the blood, in the breath. For the first question ever asked was not spoken aloud. It lived quietly in a mortal heart. How should time move? The sentinel of stillness knelt beside the newborn life, voice deep as winter anchored in stone. Choose slow, and you will remember long. Grass at its feet grew without rushing, seasons unfolding like pages turned by gentle hands. No war, no ruin, only steady days, like footsteps across patient earth. But the shadow bird descended like a comet, feathers dripping futures too bright to last. Choose me, it whispered, voice crackling with burning possibility, and you will live fast enough to change the stars. Empires in a generation, fire in the blood, a life like thunder, short, brilliant, unforgettable. The human trembled, because choice is heaviest when any answer breaks something. In the sky, lightning braided decades together, as if waiting to be woven by mortal will. The elder bird spoke gently, slow wings parting centuries like silk. Choose growth, choose memory. The shadow bird replied, eyes bright as collapsing suns. Choose fire, choose destiny. Neither lied. Both told truth, different shapes of it. The human, voice unformed yet soul awake, raised both hands to the sky. one toward the dawn wings, one toward the burning future, and whispered, "Time must move, but not alone." A third wing beat struck the world like revelation. Not addition, not compromise, a union. Mortals would grow slowly enough to learn, but burn brightly enough to change. Time would not crawl like stone nor devour like fire. It would walk on fragile feet, on hearts that could break, on lives that would end, and be remembered. The two birds slowed their battle. The sky healed like fabric stitched with choice, and for the first time, the world exhaled future, for a thing that cannot end, cannot mean anything at all. The two birds hovered in the newborn sky, one slow, one burning, and below them the first human stood unshielded, fragile enough to break the universe with one breath. But instead, the human created balance no god ever imagined. Not by choosing one wing, but by standing between them. Time trembled, for this was not obedience. It was partnership. The elder bird dipped its wings in gratitude, seasons softening like pages turned with care. The shadow bird flickered with fierce pride, a star collapsing into purpose instead of destruction. Where their flight once tore futures apart, now it braided them. Slow memory intertwined with bright destiny, gentle growth with burning change. Time became story, not mere motion, not endless decay. The sentinel of stillness watched silently. A mountain witnessing dawn learned forgiveness. It understood then, eternal things are brittle, mortal things are meaningful, for what ends can be loved, what passes can be held, what dies can be remembered. And so stillness did something unimaginable. It stepped aside. It let time move, not wildly, not ravenously, purposefully. Wings beat once, twice, and the sky opened like a book whose pages were years. Centuries flowed not like floods but like rivers, carving history with intention. Mountains aged, seas receded and returned. Civilizations rose, fell, and left stories behind, like feathers in the dust. The two birds flew as one pattern, pulse and flame, memory and arrow. Neither ruled, both sustained. Time no longer hunted the world. It walked with it. The first human grew old, not suddenly like shadow, not endlessly like dawn, but beautifully, a life long enough to learn, short enough to matter. In wrinkled hands the human held a single feather, half silver, half fire, given freely by the twin wings, a symbol not of power, but of acceptance. The human whispered, "Let everything that ends be cherished," and the feather dissolved into gold dust. That became sunsets, memories, music, grief, all the things that make time real. Death entered the world gently. Life entered eternity through remembrance. And time itself bowed to mortality. The two birds vanished into horizon, not gone, merely watching, through every dawn and every dying star. For time was no longer ruled by wings. It beat in hearts, in endings, in beginnings, in stories told when the world sleeps. Thank you for listening. Sleep softly beneath wings that never stop turning the sky, and let your dreams hold centuries gently.